Hey, welcome back to another episode of Your Guess, Your Miss. If this is your first time here, I'm Tracy. And if you've been here before, welcome back. Let's continue having a conversation, just saying what is true. I've been down under the weather for over a week, but I wanted to record this episode because a lot of people think that the hardest part is making a decision. And sometimes it is. But honestly, what surprised me the most was everything that came after I didn't back out. Yes, I quit my job. And I want to talk about that, but not in a dramatic way or not in a mental I'm burning it all down way. More in a real life way. Because when you've been doing something for a long time, especially something that you've worked hard to get good at, leaving it doesn't feel like a sudden leap. It feels like a slow realization that's been building for a while. I didn't wake up one day hating my job. I wasn't miserable every day. I wasn't failing. I was doing well. And I think that's what made it harder to admit that something still wasn't right. There's a strange place you reach when you're capable, trusted, and experienced, but no longer growing. You know how to do the work. You know how to handle the situation. You know what the next step would look like if you stayed. But when you imagine that future, it doesn't scare you. It just doesn't excite you either. That's when I knew something had shifted. I realized I wasn't learning anything new anymore. I wasn't being stretched. I wasn't curious. I was repeating, not expanding. And at first, I told myself that was just maturity. That not everything needs to feel exciting. And that's true. Not everything does. But there's a difference between calm and being stuck. And once you notice that difference, it's hard to ignore. So I started paying attention. Not rushing to leave. No, just paying attention. I noticed how I felt on Sundays. I noticed how often I was mentally clocked in even when I wasn't there. I noticed that I had outgrown the role, but I kept trying to fit myself back into it because it made sense on paper. And I think a lot of us do that. We stay because something looks good, because it's stable, because other people would love to be in that position. And you start questioning yourself like, am I being ungrateful? Or is something wrong with me for wanting more? But wanting more growth doesn't mean you're ungrateful. It means you're paying attention. At some point, I realized I wasn't looking for a different environment. I was looking for a different role. A role that matched who I am now, not who I was when I started. And once that clicked, everything else started making sense. Making the decision to quit wasn't loud. It was actually very quiet. I thought it would feel scary or chaotic or emotional. Instead, it felt clear. Not perfect, just clear. What was new for me was what happened after. Because usually I second guess myself. I revisit decisions. I reopen doors just to make sure I'm not moving too fast. My brain is very good at negotiating with me. But this time, when the doubt came up, and they did, I didn't entertain them the same way. I noticed them, and then I stayed with what I knew. And honestly, that felt strange at first. Because when you spend a long time pushing, proving, and holding things together, calm can feel unfamiliar. You almost wait for the other shoe to drop. Like, okay, so when does this panic start? But guess what? It didn't. What I felt instead was space. Space in my mind, space in my body, space where I realized how much energy I had been using just to keep something going that I had already run its course. Of course, I thought about money. Of course, I thought about responsibility. I'm not pretending those thoughts didn't come up. They did. But they didn't feel like warnings. They felt like an old pattern checking in to see if they still had control. And they didn't anymore. I didn't quit because I was running away from something. I quit because staying no longer matched who I was becoming. And that distinction mattered to me. This wasn't about rejecting my past. It was about honoring it and moving forward anyways. I respect what the chapter gave me. I respect the version of me who held it down for as long as she did. And I also respect myself enough to know when it's time to change roles. And maybe that's what I want to say most in this episode. You don't have to hate where you are to leave it. You don't have to be broken to want something different. You don't have to explain your growth to everyone who's comfortable with the old version of you. Sometimes you just realize you've done learning what the place has to teach you. And if you're listening to this and you're in that in-between space, not unhappy, not fulfilled, I'm right there with you. You're not confused. You might just be listening to yourself for the first time in a while. That doesn't mean you need to move fast. It just means that you need to be honest. Thank you for sitting with me today. If this episode resonated, I'd love to hear from you. Leave a comment, send a message, or share with someone who might be standing in the same quiet moment right now. Make sure you follow Your Guest Your Mess on Spotify, YouTube, Amazon Music, and wherever you listen to podcasts. You can also find me on Instagram, Facebook, or TikTok. Just search Your Guest Your Mess. Until next time, be gentle with yourself. You don't have to rush the becoming.